Opening things up here in turn 2 of Kadesh, Hittites won the initiative, and they fired off this, third division here, just kind of pulling it around the corner. The Egyptians then got a draw for the second division. Couldn't even withdraw at this time because they're out of command, but they wheeled around, had to kind of retreat a little bit from the charging Hittites. But they wheeled around, and they're ready to face them, and we're beginning to see some of the once routed units moving back, and we got some more rallies coming here. Take a peek at what we see coming in this kind of command here is the units kind of forming up, trying to push their way to create a real division again. Next activation went to the Pharaoh, who had to kind of channel his way through down here because there's other units in the way. One of the problems with a chit pull or any kind of activation impulse type system. And then we had a couple of activations for the Hittites. These guys in the back pulling forward, and then this fourth division, which was engaged, they broke their way through. They busted up one of the chariots they were facing, but otherwise they were actually defeated by one of them, and we got a couple of routed units here, one due to overturned chariots. For the most part, you can see the entire Hittite formation is kind of swinging around, wheeling, getting into position. Now, they're more beat up than the Egyptians are now. So when the Egyptians throw their two divisions, the first and the guard in, they've got a significant advantage in that their chariots aren't beat yet. Of course, there's a numerical advantage that the Hittites have. They have 4 divisions to the Egyptians 2, but the Egyptians have some infantry, including runner infantry, available to help them. And the Hittites are mostly done. Well, I got a couple of rally attempts I can make because these guys here forming up in column, massive traffic jam, not just there, but all throughout the Hittite area. And the Egyptians too, as they tried to set their divisions up for battle line. But these guys here mainly rallied, so they don't get to, well, they recovered their tactical quality points, to use the appropriate terminology. But these guys have to rally. They can't do that while these guys are recovering. But since these guys are so far back, it seemed like a good idea. They had taken some hits, especially this fella up here in the front who slammed into something and took some serious damage from it. Ooh, but that guy up front couldn't do it because he's in range of some archers. Oops. So he's going to get his ugly damage marker back. Well, hopefully he'll be able to handle it as the rest of the division swings forward. Oh well. Let's do those rally checks though. We're just checking for a 4, which is our leader's number. And the second unit's going to be in a rallied state. It takes half its tactical quality points and damage. And finishing up the turn, what do we see? Well, the Egyptians used their momentum on this first division here and then pushed it forward a little further. They basically charged as close as they could the first time without overturning chariots, speed 5 or whatever. Got a few shots in. The second time, though, they pulled up, didn't close completely, even with their runner infantry and such not, but concentrated their fire against things like these javelin units. This is a composite bow, so they tried not to fire at it as much as they could because it gets to shoot back, but the javelins are out of range. Both of the 2 hex range here, well, I guess they chased one away with this shock infantry up here, and chased it through this, doing damage to both. Actually, it was this one. They basically did a lot of damage at long range without actually engaging, both from firing and from moving forward and threatening with the infantry. There's no way the chariots want to stand up to infantry. Retreating away is great with the composite bow, but it's not so good with the javelin because you can't throw it far enough. The composite bows get a 2 hex retreat fire as they pull away. That's not the case here. Got some cleanup to do, and then we start the next turn. One thing I did want to catch, though, the Hittites used their momentum chit. Remember, they can throw in a new division with that to throw that big old infantry division in. I don't think it's going to come into play very effectively, but it can slowly make its way across here. And my feeling is the traffic jam's bad enough that I might as well start trying to deploy them, see what happens. It should be at least a threat on the Egyptian flanks. Of course, one thing we know is Chariots can do a pretty good job on an infantry-only unit. So it may not be so pleasing for them. But if it peels the Chariots off, it'll weaken the amount of forces that the Egyptians have to commit to the battle. Alright, cleanup time, and this poor guy can't get rid of his low missile still. The Egyptians opened up with the initiative this time and fired off their first division. They're pushing it along the river line. You can see they've actually pushed some of the Hittite allied units back across this stream. It caused some difficulties. They are also seeing the Hittites kind of withdrawing from that cav attack up here, but that's as painful as suffering the longer range missile attacks, it seems. So I kind of decided not to do that again. I don't know what happened here. I think I dropped a die or something. Alright, let's see who goes next. Both sides using their next activations. The 6th Division for the Hittites, and then the Egyptian 2nd, which is pretty battered, to form up and try to increase the flank, the length of the line, as it were. With these swinging around with this position here, there's a lot of danger to the Egyptian line, so getting some solidity here is important. I was planning on pulling the Pharaoh down into that area, but it looks to me like these guys are going to end up in the center and the Pharaoh's going to pull down to the end where these guys are swinging around. There's actually not quite enough room on the map, it looks like, because I want a lot more space beyond this river to set up that big old chariot battle that I'm expecting. Of course, the way they turn into chaos, it may be okay. Well, we see the Hittites sliding very slowly, that reserve chariot division, into place. Try to position it into the plain. They only moved 3 movement points with them to avoid any chariot turnovers. They're trying to kind of present an attack possibility along this flank across the stream, which is definitely a threat against the infantry that the Egyptians have up there. Likewise, the Pharaoh's units have turned. There aren't a lot of them, but his guard is turned and is kind of heading this way. And let's see, got the Hittites kind of sliding this 3rd division into place, into kind of a battle position, doing some recovery actions on it. This 4th division moved in and attacked and didn't do too well. Didn't go for an all-out assault or anything. Just trying to kind of get a little bit more room so this division can slam in. It's not in great shape. But the biggest news is the Hittite infantry division. Just huge thing, but if you look very carefully, that's not good quality stuff for the most part. There's some decent units, but nothing great there. And it's not really what you want in the battle line. It may actually be more of a prize in terms of something that's liable to get easily destroyed by the chariots than anything else. And I think that's to reflect the Hittites' reluctance to actually deploy them during the battle, or the fact that they did not deploy them, that they have such low quality infantry there. Alright, I think we're getting towards the end of the turn. Yeah, just one more division to go. And that's this one. I'd expect an attack there, I think. Well, the traffic jam's one thing that clogged things up, but also, when it comes down to it, quite simply, the combination of those runner infantry and the Chariot 2s is a better defensive structure than the Chariot 3s. You'd think the Chariot 3s are able to do quite well against them, but the reality is they're going on the 5 table, -2 for that extra runner unit. It's like hitting a wall. I lost 1 unit up here, and then another one stuck in an engaged fight where it took a lot more damage. It took like 4 to 2. I'm not quite sure what to do with those heavy chariots. They're not really capable of facing the Egyptian units when deployed with the runners. If they don't have the runners, the heavy chariots are quite potent. Anyway, that puts us at the end of the turn. Point-wise, we're at 93 for the Hittites and 95 for the Egyptians. The Egyptians continue to push their standoff attacks along here, firing, not really closing. Now, they're facing composite bows in general here. So it's kind of not the advantage that they were looking for before. But they don't have the runner infantry, and they don't see much harm. They get the first shot in, and some of these units were already a little damaged. Up here we see something more interesting, though. The Hittites slid their chariots along this river line. Now, one of them, I think this one of the lead ones took a lot of damage running over those fields at high speeds. But all of these were traveling at high speeds, taking some risk, but shooting things up. And they managed to take out a light infantry bowman who got to fire back, and some shock infantry, and also do some damage to this lead unit. Just basically really weakening this and preparing to swing around behind the Egyptian line, which may require the pharaoh to spin this way instead of heading down in the direction he was planning on. Well, this game can certainly get into a finicky mess. Charge forward of these kind of orangish units, those are allied to the Hittites, slammed in, and it's kind of a weird choice here. I'm not sure that there's any particular advantage. The RI, the runner infantry, could try to run forward and attack the chariots as they're coming using the aggression rate rolls. I think. I'm not sure. But looking at that the value of that, and they certainly could if they were, because there were missiles fired at them. Looking at the value of that, it was, well, that's not a very good chart. The RI attacking a Chariot 3 is the 4 table here, which isn't good at all. If the Chariot 3 attacks the 2 together, it's the 5. Minus 2 is the 3 table, which isn't good. But the runner infantry might break before the fight starts. So they have to make a tactical quality check if they're standing. And they've only got, with a 4, a 50-50 chance. Some of them are a little better, but most of them are 4s. So you've got sort of this, I don't know if they're going to stay, what's going to happen. It's really rough to judge. I chose not to launch them, mainly because if they make the attack, then no matter what, I'm at kind of bad odds. Whereas if they stand, I can make the Hittites be at bad odds. That's my feeling with it. The other side, though, is, of course, the Hittites would have to make the tactical quality check if they're charged, I think. I'm not sure, because they have this little no tactical quality marker on there. Anyway, we ended up with some routed units from both sides in this case, and the poor pharaoh is kind of cut off by that horde there. Partway through. Wow, interesting stuff happens here. So again, the Egyptians mainly firing, but they did, and pulling out and trying to play kind of this delaying game throughout the entire situation, because really they realize the Hittites can only win by closing, and that's okay. The Egyptians aren't badly defended against that. Of course, where you're skimming by and hitting all one unit, that can be pretty potent, especially when it's some poor guy who can't reload because he's in the range of archers, and so he can't fire back. But we saw a barbarian infantry go charging across the stream here. Now, he routed the unit he hit, but then he ended up here taking fire from 3 units for entering there. He was destroyed. The unit he hit was just one of these routed Hittites. Not a good exchange. He's not that good a unit, but still, we're seeing we're at 83 to 93 now. The Egyptians are falling behind here on the field. I forgot to launch this. Oh no, there's no attack there because this is just a Chariot 2 stuck in combat against a Chariot 3 that it cannot attack. And for one thing, it's on the side, but also it's just not able to get away from this the way I determined that's supposed to be. Well, I'm kind of regretting not trumping the Hittite momentum. I think the Egyptian momentum didn't happen. No, it did. The pharaoh activated his own force, but the Hittite momentum slid through here, shot one chariot and got rid of it. A big one, actually. Only a 20% chance that it's destroyed if it's routed, so it didn't seem like that terrible a thing. On the bright side, I've got these heavy infantry who can cross the river and at least, you know, drive that formation that's kind of doing this drive-by shooting a little out of the way. But the more time that the Hittites are able to gain with little actions like that, and maybe this curving around here, the more time for this huge infantry formation, which is making its way slowly across the river. It's hard for it to make it across. It's 3 extra movement points. These guys only have 4 movement points. The only exception, I allowed them to cross here into the woods. I don't know if that's legitimate or not, but it seems silly that they... I think everything's allowed to move one hex no matter what, so they were allowed to do that. I'm not sure, though. That's a pretty standard thing. Lots of rallying going on, actually, over with the Hittites as they... this was an allowable rally because they didn't recover anything and they didn't close. Yeah, actually it's not. They closed within 1. I cheated. I gotta that have to unrally. Oops. Actually, I should let those rallies stand. I don't think I made a rally action when I moved this 6th division. Alright. Finish up with these green guys, the 3rd division here. They kind of cut forward, and the Egyptian charioteers just ran from them, but there's kind of a traffic jam happening here, which means a lot of tactical quality was lost running away. Maybe, you know, as bad as getting hit, but maybe not. We have this advantage of being able to fire as we withdraw with these lighter chariots, and also being able to line up and just shoot these guys at a range where they can't do anything. If we're facing them, we can with a line without a lot of stuff behind us. The traffic jam meant we got all cluttered in there, and that was kind of painful. But as long as we can face them with a line head on with the chariots, we can run away without any real problem at all. But here, because it's kind of catching in this vice-like situation, it's clustering the Egyptians into a position that is not really good for these chariots. This is the end of the turn. Nothing new died. I just got some cleanup to do. Oh, I forgot to mention the Pharaoh fired these guys across the river. They took some arrow hits and also the tactical quality for moving a second time. But they kind of chased the Hittite chariots back from here, moved up, did some firing, and you know, disrupted this side of the equation. And slowly we're seeing the line making its way across. This reserve division's in place. The guards is getting clogged though by routed units because I've got the Hittite king sitting here near Kadesh. All the routed stuff's getting close to him. He's going to have to kind of figure out some place to be where he won't be cluttering the road the way he has been. Before it was no problem because he had a line of troops on the road, but when I moved these off, before these, well, these didn't get a second shot is basically what happened. So routing units are now in their way, and they've got no way to cross. They can't go across this major river with the chariots except by the bridges, and there's only 2. One over here and one way over here, which maybe it would have been a good idea to send that division around in some kind of huge flanking move because they're really not getting a chance to get through here. Of course, with the infantry coming in this way, they would have been in the way as well. So I don't know. But if we get to move these before this kind of clears up, I may just wheel this and ride it around the back there. Definitely issues with figuring out who's in range of fire, because you can fire over units in this game, which is different from anything else in this series. And the ranges are kind of far on those composite bows. So there's a lot of places where it's like, well, this guy can't reload, but somebody here could because these are only javelins, and ouch. There's one other point about this one, and this is my old SPQR, which is not the designer's version, and which I'm kind of more used to playing in this series. Yeah, I played Samurai at some point, but I can't think about that as much. I don't know if it's because it was older and the counters were kind of more worn, but here these are these ultra slick glossy things, and man, they're a pain in the butt, especially once you've clipped them and they don't have little bits of whatever, tabs hanging off the edge or whatever to interfere with each other. Well, stacking and unstacking becomes really a chore. Even with the tweezers, I'm having a hard time keeping these from flipping all over the place because they're so slick. I really dislike glossy counters. I know it's the only way to get these kind of pretty colors and the pretty pictures that are on the modern counters, and I do appreciate that, but wow, that high gloss is painful. And I don't know, SPQR didn't have this issue, but maybe again it's just because somebody sweat on those counters so much. It's an old used copy. Alright, up this goes.